Time to get you up to date on the natural state of sports on this wonderful Thursday here in August, the 27th. But it is a Thursday episode. Kyle Marshak is the guest. Young Riley is the consummate professional as our producer over there, punching the buttons, making sure we sound nice and crispy on the mics. But as I was getting to, it is a Thursday episode. But we're talking Friday Night Lights. Can I get producer Cam pulled up? Because I know Riley has been looking forward to this with me
Yeah, there we go.
for
Let's
a
go.
year now.
Let's go.
It is finally almost. Well, I mean, technically, it is here tonight. Rogers is playing North Little Rock
Yeah.
tonight,
here.
so the season starts. But then our big show, all the games get going tomorrow on the 28th. Obviously, you'll be seeing this at about 6:45 if we were to talk about this tomorrow. You're already at the game, so it doesn't make sense for us to do it tomorrow, so we're doing it today. So every Thursday is going to be our Football Friday night preview.
Love to
We'll
hear
run through the games, run through the players, run through last week, all of that good stuff. We really do have like a weird like ESPN branding with that, like Football Friday night on Thursday, because don't they do like their brand is like Thursday night games on Monday or whatever it is, Monday night football on Thursday when they do it oddly. Yeah, I don't
We
know.
have so much football to cover, you know?
I know. I just
It's crazy.
I wish I could remember what the branding was, but it was something like Monday Night Football on Thursday if it's under the
Oh, yeah, I know what
ESPN
you're
banner,
talking
or on
about, yeah.
Saturday maybe when it's the pros.
Yeah, it was some day that wasn't on a day, and then it's
Right,
just like,
but they had to keep the branding. So regardless, we will be talking high school football on Thursday. Let's simplify that. But first, before we get there, we're gonna have to wait a little bit, young Riley. Don't get too mad at me. We're putting a restraining order on that. We're gonna get some distance there because we have
Good
to talk
transition.
about that. Coming in today, just a few hours ago, two Arkansas players now at sort of the center of what's been a national debate, discussion throughout the course of this offseason. The class of 2022 getting an extra year of eligibility. Now, Kyle, you did a whole kind of breakdown on this earlier in the week, over the weekend, I should say. So I don't think there's anybody better to explain it than you. So I'll turn it over to you. You can quick summarize how we got here, and then we'll update you on what happened.
I guess just broad scheme. Here's the brief history of the fifth year stuff. It started like in 1973 is when they started the normal 4 and 5 model. What we've seen up until this year, or I guess last year maybe, is athletes have 4 years or have 5 years to do 4 years of eligibility, typical redshirt stuff. And then obviously this year, the Supreme Court or whatever it was said, okay, now it's just 5 and 5. You've got 5 years to compete, 5 seasons. But that put athletes from the high school class of 2022 onward in like this legal gray area. Because, athletes of 21 and before have already, the 5 years have come and gone. There's nothing that they can do. Athletes in the class of 2022, which, pertains to Caleb Wooden, the DB, Sean Williams, the DB that the Hogs picked up. They are those guys in that legal gray area. And so basically we've been going back and forth with these, smaller courts, putting temporary restraining orders on, the NCAA and the Supreme Court's ever-changing rules of like, okay, if you're in this class, you can do a 5th year. In this class, you can't do a 5th year. So now we land in this weird gray area where I guess now Caleb Wooden and Sean Williams filed for a 5th year. Obviously, that's why they've, come back to college football looking to play this season with Arkansas. And then Washington County put a temporary restraining order on the NCAA's statement of saying, no, they can't have a 5th year. So once again, we sit in this legal gray area. We do not know whether or not these two players who I would find rather important for the secondary of Arkansas this year are going to be able to play.
Especially Caleb Wooden. He's been here. He knows the culture. He knows what to do. But that sort of touches on a bigger issue that we're dealing with in college football with eligibility, with suspensions, with everything, is that the NCAA doesn't really govern itself, and that's kind of the problem, is that they can have these injunctions, they can have these restraining orders, they can have all of this stuff put on them from outside courts, and they have to adhere to it because that's the letter of the law, as it were. So as you mentioned, you heard two names there, Caleb Wooden, senior defensive back, class of 2022, and then Williams.
Yeah, Sean Williams.
Sean Williams, thank you. I saw Sean Williams Scott, and I'm like, that's an actor. That's not the right one. Yeah, Sean Williams, the other one, dealing with this. Both of them filed a temporary restraining order against the NCAA to say, hey, we can play. That was approved by a Washington County court. And so as of right now, the restraining order says NCAA can't do anything about this. These two guys can play. Now, I want to flip it over to more of our newsy guy over there at the producer computer, young Riley. Can you kind of break down the court system element to this?
Okay, so believe where this original started was in an appeals court. It started actually in Colorado recently. The ruling was in July, and that's where the 2022 gray area started. And so then I don't know how it works jurisdictionally, but I guess Washington County Court, obviously Fayetteville, that's where this comes in, and that's why they're in Washington County Court for this.
Right, it's a court by court basis. Like it's literally an athlete by athlete basis,
And
depending on where they are.
And the
Yeah.
tricky thing too is you go and find a judge close to you, like we saw this in the Sorsby case with Texas A&M. We're seeing it here with this one. I believe there's a third, maybe even a
Trinidad.
fourth one. Trinidad Chambliss. You
Yeah.
just go one county over from where you're at, and you think that judge isn't going to grant you an injunction
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a restraining order? Like, of course they're going to. So it's
Yeah.
it's
You might
almost
be a Hogs fan, you know?
exactly guaranteed. I
Yeah.
guarantee you that judge is like, yeah, of course I want to see the Hogs succeed this year. So that's another problem. If we are going to be doing this case by case and this ruling by ruling, maybe it needs to go out of state to make sure that it's fair. But we're not trying to bamboozle you. We're going to get to high school football. That's just such an important talking point, not only nationally, but then spotlighted here today in Arkansas. So to wrap all that up, two very important pieces of the Hogs defense, as Kyle mentioned, now eligible to play this season until they reach their court date, which I think was scheduled for September 3rd.
That's what I have written down. Yeah.
So we'll see how all that goes, but they are allowed to play. And high school is allowed to play starting, well, not allowed, but they're going to play. They're starting tonight, North Little Rock and Rogers. That's going to be an exciting game. Rogers Mounties losing Riley's favorite player last year, one of the most electric high school players I saw from last year, Jeff Regan, at quarterback. That dude was an X factor.
Special.
He's got one of the greatest high school highlights I've ever seen in my life against Springdale last year. So much so that I can recall it instantly. I can't remember the second corner's name, Sean Williams, but I can remember Jeff Regan running 85 yards for a touchdown. But that's an exciting matchup. But Kyle, you've got an exciting matchup. You're our Game of the Week correspondent this year.
Oh, yeah.
The Battle of Rogers Ave, a tradition, I believe, over 50 years now in Fort Smith. North side versus South side. Your first taste of high school football, man. That's a good
yeah.
one.
I'm pumped. Well, like I'm from New York. High school football in New York, not that big a deal. Arkansas, it's legit. And North Side versus South Side, I mean, it's basically the Battle of Fort Smith, which I think was a real thing, right? Was the Battle of Fort Smith a real thing back in the day? Am I making that up?
Funny enough, it's in Fort Smith. It's North Side and South Side. And it's the Battle of Rogers Avenue.
Yeah,
We got
doesn't
all
make
sorts
sense.
of different things mixed in there, but that's kind of what makes it unique. But that's going to be a really fun one. South Side in 6A, North Side in 7A. So
Yeah.
different. They split conferences a little while ago, but they're still like, this is such a historical, important game to this area. We got to keep playing. So
Oh,
that's
yeah.
why it's scheduled every week in week one to make sure that it's done because they can't do it in the conference schedule.
Yeah. Southside's coach Kim Dameron was one of my favorite interviews for these Football Friday night previews. Super seasoned guy. He had been a defensive coordinator at multiple D1s. There was a Power 4 that he was at, and I'm not recalling the name. One of the D1s that I recall him having a high position at was University of Louisiana Monroe. Like, he's been around the block and, kind of slowly building a winning culture in Southside. Northside, you can't really understate it. They've struggled.
Right.
And now it's year 2 for Don Maroc, who I think has been dealt some really tough cards at Northside. But when I stop by his practices, I see that he's got kids that are extremely talented. I should remember who their running back's name is, but that's kind of their guy to look out for. Just super twitchy, super fast. But Southside, very disciplined team. So they're kind of favored in this matchup.
Well, the thing is, doesn't matter. It's week one and it's a rivalry. Throw everything you know out the window. It's got to go.
You never
It can
know.
be anybody's ball game. Yep, that's the beauty of football season. But that's not the only good game that we've got. We've got a game of the week 1B, which Bo Russell is even in frame back there. Bo Russell's going to be at tomorrow, and that is the Battle of the Bone. Alma and Van Buren. That's a fun one. Yeah, he's usually over there. But young Riley, that's a good one. I remember we really enjoyed that one last year between the Pointers and the Airedales.
Yep. Alma, I think what was it? Can't remember what the final score was last year.
It was close, but I believe Van Buren pulled away to win that one.
Van Buren pulled away
with some trick plays too, which is always fun.
always gotta have special teams.
But that's kind of the interesting thing, right? With Southside, Van Buren, Alma, all these 6A teams, it's really kind of the Wild West out there because that division is completely up for grabs. Shiloh Christian, gone. They're up to 7A. And then Greenwood, the other preeminent power, gone. They're down to 5A, which...
it's like Greenwood, if they don't win 5A.
Right. And those two played each other in the 6A state championship last year in a 70-50 shootout.
Crazy.
Shiloh Christian finally got the monkey off of their back and beat Greenwood for the state title. But those are huge storylines coming into this year. Shiloh Christian moving up to 7A, Greenwood down to 5A. Like you said, I think that's kind of all we need to talk about with Greenwood is they're expected to win it going down a division. But it's worth mentioning they're without their head coach of a long time. He moved on. And they're without Kane Archer, who was all-everything quarterback ranked nationally. He's now with Utah, who the Arkansas Razorbacks play week 2 this season.
And how about the way they're starting their season? They got Bentonville West right out of the gate. They are, they still got the tough schedule. Although 5A is going to be a lot easier, towards the end of the season. But they're starting the season off.
Oh, for sure. Team. And when you look at the 5A, no disrespect to the other teams, but really their only competition in this area would be the Farmington Cardinals and Tommy Tice. They are kind of the ones, the benchmark for how you're going to do down here. But to Riley,
by the way, right?
Tommy Tice?
Yeah.
Legendary.
Yeah.
Legend, wait for it, Dairy, coach of the Farmington Cardinals. But Riley, I want to circle back to that. The 7A West, right? Greenwood playing
2-minute warning, guys.
All right, so we gotta get through 6 other divisions. We can do this. But Greenwood going down to 5A, still playing up to 7A, and in a lot of circles still considered to be probably the favorites in that game. But the 7A as a whole, that's a wide open conference too this year.
Absolutely. I mean, everyone. Shiloh has so many returners. I still think they're going to be so competitive in that division. You got Fayetteville, you got Bentonville, Bryant. Obviously, it's going to be very tough, very tough, wide open.
Bryant, the favorite in the state. Bentonville's got to be the favorite in the 7A West, but Shiloh's right there. They're great offense, great defense, great everything.
I'll tell you what, Shiloh was the highest scale effort in terms of the practices that I saw. Their facility is so nice. The number of kids obviously is astronomical in that division on the roster, and a lot of coaches, a lot of resources being put into that team. I wouldn't be shocked if they gave Bentonville a real run for their money.
That's going to be a fun one. That's down the line, though, a little bit later. Let's just run through. We got 1 minute left, a couple other fun ones. We've got Elkins, the first-time 4A champions, back defending their crown. They're going to be against Pea Ridge week 1. We've got Boonville Charleston. That's always a fun one down south. That's a very, very good one. Really, everywhere you look on the schedule, even though it's week 1, we've got really good games. And I think the most exciting thing is the unknown. Kyle, if you can just maybe quick thought on that and your excitement level, we got 30 seconds.
Well, it's unpredictable. I mean, again, so many teams have moved different conferences. It makes a lot of these conferences feel wide open. And then with week 1, a lot of new coaches too, a lot of, undefined characteristics of these new teams. I just don't have expectations going into week 1.
Look, I'm excited. Young Riley's excited. Kyle's excited. It's hitting your screens tomorrow, 10:15. FFN returns. We'll be back, though, 6:45 tomorrow. See you guys then.